Radhe Radhe.
Just in time, huh?
Okay, so probably it's 9 o'clock. So yeah, Radhe Radhe everyone. Good morning, good evening. Welcome back to Daily Wisdom from Bhagavad Gita sessions. I hope you had great weekend. And we are all super excited to start discussing about who we really are truly, right? So Nitinji, over to you.
Thank you. Welcome everybody. A very warm good morning, good evening to all of you. Hope you had a great weekend. Every Monday, I'm excited to be back, and I hope the feeling is mutual. So let's get started. I'm going to share my screen, and we'll get started by invoking the blessings of God and Guru, like we always do. So let me share my screen. Share sound.
Yeah. In the meanwhile, you're all encouraged to keep your videos on. That will facilitate the interactions. So please do so. Thank you.
Yes, please do so. Thank you, everybody. So let me put it in screen share mode and get started. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardaram Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagatgurum. Krishnam Vande Jagatgurum. Radhe Radhe, a very warm welcome to all of you. So let's get started. Today we are going to talk about who we truly are. And that is what we are going to discuss. So this week, like I said, for the benefit of participants, we are doing a recap, rewind series. We will not go as slow as we usually do per verse because we are in chapter 4. But for the benefit of the participants who have joined late, we are doing this recap sessions, touching upon the key highlights or the important foundational elements that require a discussion before we proceed further. And as part of that discussion, we are going to spend a good amount of time on the concept of who we are. Very important concept, and the entire premise of Bhagavad Gita is based on that. So let's get started. I picked up a couple of shlokas today. We'll probably take 3 or 4 participants per shloka, and then we will get into the topic for discussion today. I'm going to recite it, and you're welcome to follow along. Antavanta ime deha Nityasyokta sharirinaha Anashino prameyasya Tasmad yudhyasva bharata. All right, do we have any volunteers for this one?
Yes. Okay. Avakya pickle, okay.
Avakya pickle, that is Samji. So
Samji, right?
yes, please go ahead. Avakya pickle ji.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe,
Radhe
Samji.
Radhe Radhe. It's avakai pickle.
Avakaya.
Antavanta ime deha nityashokta sharirinaha anashino aprameyasya tasmad yudhyasva bharata. Radhe Radhe.
Sunita ji. Yeah, Radhe Radhe, Sunita ji, please go ahead.
Okay, Radhe Radhe. Antavanta ime deha nitya yokta sarirana anasino preme yasya tasmat yudhasva bharata. Radhe Radhe.
Very nice, Sunita ji. Radhe Radhe.
Ashutosh ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
राधे राधे।
Radhe Radhe Ashutosh ji.
अंतवंत इमे देहा नित्य सोक्ता शरीरिणः अनासिनो प्रमेयस्य अस्माद्युध्यस्व भारत। राधे राधे।
Radhe Radhe, very nice, Ashutosh ji. Okay, maybe
Su-
one more on this and then we move on to the next shloka.
okay, Sujata ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe. This is Uday here. I just took her mobile. Yeah.
Sure.
Antavanta ime deha nitya shokta sharirinaha anasino aprameyasya tasmadyudyasva bharata. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, let's take maybe one more.
Okay, Sumesh ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Nitinji, Radhe Radhe everyone. Anantavanta ime deha nityasyukta saririnaha anasino prameyasya tasmadyudhasva bharata. Radhe Radhe. Thank
Very
you.
nice. Thank you, Sameshi. All right, so let's move on. This shloka, Lord Krishna is saying only the material body is perishable. The embodied soul within is indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal. Therefore, fight, O descendant of Bharat. Let's move on. There's another shloka. We're going to do these two together today. Ya enam veti hantaram yaschainam manyate hatam ubho to na vijanito nayam hanti na hanyate. All right.
Yeah, Pragi ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Pragi.
Ya enam veti hantaram yaschenam manyate hatam ubhau to na vijanito nayam hanti na hanyate.
Very nice, Pragi ji. All right, we can take maybe 3-4 more hands and then we will get started.
Shyam ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
राधे राधे।
Radhe Radhe Shyam ji.
य एनं वेति हन्तारं यश्चैनं मन्यते हतम् उभौ तौ न विजानीतो नायं हन्ति न हन्यते। राधे राधे।
Radhe Radhe. Thank you, Shyam ji. All right, do we have maybe 4 more hands real quick?
Yeah, Shruti ji, Radhe Radhe, please go
Radhe Radhe
ahead.
Shruti.
Radhe Radhe Sandhya, Radhe Radhe Nitin. Ya enam veti hantaram yaschenam manyate hatam ubho to na vijanito nayam hanti na hanyate.
Wonderful, very nice. Okay, last 3 hands.
Yeah, Rupa ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe Rupa ji.
Radhe Radhe everyone.
Radhe
Ya
Radhe.
enam venti hantaram yaschainam manyate hatam ubhau tabuna vijanito nayam hanti na hanyate.
Wonderful, very nice, Rupa ji. All right, we're down to our last 2 hands and then we get started.
Yeah, Rahul ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead. We can't hear you. Can you say again?
We can't hear you, Rahul. Let's move on to Riya in the meantime. Riya ji.
Riya ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Riya ji.
Ya enam veti hantaram yaschainam manyate hatam ubhau to na vijanito nayam hanti na hanyate. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, very nice, Riyaji. This is Rahul. Are you able to do that or?
Yeah, Rahul ji, Radhe Radhe.
Audible? Radhe
Yes,
Radhe.
now you're
Yes.
audible. Yep.
Ya enam veti hantaram, yaschanam manyate hatam, ubhato na vijanito, nayam hanti na hanyate. Jai Shri
All
Ram.
right, very nice. Thank you, Rahulji. So let's get started. Now, what Krishna is saying, neither of them is in knowledge. The one who thinks the soul can slay, and the one who thinks the soul can be slain. For truly the soul neither kills nor can it be killed. Okay, it's an important concept. We'll talk about it. Then what is killing truly, right? But today we are going to focus on the first aspect of it more, and time permitting, we'll see how far we can go on this one. So let's get started. As you can see, this guy rings up another guy. Okay, and when he calls him up, he said, "Who's calling?" He said, "Hello, guess who? It's me." Like in India, it happens, right? Batao kaun main bol raha hu. We directly call up and say, "It's me who's talking." And the other guy says, "You know what? What a coincidence. Here it's me as well. Both sides it's me." So that is quite a coincidence. In Hindi, the way it goes like is, "Kaun bol raha hai, main bol raha hu." He said, "Kya baat hai? Idhar bhi main hi bol raha hu." So both are me. But the question to be wondered here is, who is this me? Right? And that is what we are going to discuss about today. Who's this me that we talk about? Now, let's get started on this. Which label out of these, you can type it out, okay, that you identify with the most. There are different labels that we carry in our life. Somebody says, "Who are you?" Right? There are different ways. We go with our name. That is one of our labels. We have a designation. I am a doctor or a PhD or a postdoc or an engineer or whatever designation we want to call ourselves with. That's another label we typically carry as part of our identity. Right? Then other label is the profession that we are in. You're a doctor, you're an engineer, you're a lawyer, I'm a lawyer. That is how we try to introduce ourselves. Then we have the country. I'm an American, I'm an Indian, I'm an Algerian. Then we have the religion. I'm a Christian, I'm a Hindu, I'm a Muslim, I'm a Jew, or I'm agnostic, I'm a scientist. They say I don't believe to any religion at all. And then the ideology as well. I'm a socialist, I'm a Marxist, I'm a communist, I'm a capitalist. So there's so many identities we associate ourselves with. Now let's look at each one of these, the name part of it, right? A name is something that is title that is given to us, right? There's a nickname. We don't like to be called with our nickname in college when we go. And when people change our name, it gets stuck, right? Some people, they get a name, it just gets stuck with them. Nickname or whatever. So does that mean that identity has changed? Identity doesn't change with our name. Our name, somebody can change it. You can put an advertisement in a newspaper and say, if anybody has an objection to the new name that I have taken, please let me know in next 10 days. And if nobody objects, you can actually go ahead and change your name. You can change your name on your passport and pretty much everything. So there was an interesting story about the name, right? There was a guy when I came here in US, in Seattle. I was there for a while, and there was a guy whose name was Sudhish. Okay, his name was Sudhish. That's it. No surname, Sudhish. And then when I would look at the letters that would come, because we were sharing an apartment, when I would look at some of the letters that would come under his name, they would put it as FNU Sudhish. And somewhere they will put it as Sudhish LNU. So in some people's database, the first name was required. So they would put FNU Sudhish, assuming Sudhish to be his last name. And in some people's database, last name was required. So they will put Sudhish LNU, last name unknown. And people will give unsolicited calls and they will say, is it Mr. Fanu talking? FNU, Fanu talking? I said, what is this? But his identity was not changing. He was still the same, right? And even there's a movie, right? There was a guy whose name was Chiranji Lal and he didn't like it and he wanted to change his name. So name is something you can change, but that truly doesn't change our identity. It is just a label that we carry. Similarly with the designation, right? The designation could change as well. You may put ER in front of your thing, or you may say I'm a manager, and then you may get demoted and you'll say now I'm a business analyst, or you may get promoted and say I'm a director. That can change as well. Truly doesn't change our identity. Profession also, you could be something today and you could be something else tomorrow. That doesn't change your identity as well. I had a friend in my college. He was from Rajasthan. His name was Rajendra. And I don't know what happened. Somebody suffixed Prasad with his name. Okay, so from Rajendra, he became Rajendra Prasad. And from Rajendra Prasad, somebody said, okay, Rajendra Prasad was the name of the first president of India. So they started calling him Dr. Rajendra Prasad. And I don't know what happened. After a few months, people started calling him doctor, although he was technically doing engineering. So when our train would come, Purushottam Express in New Delhi, I remember that he was from a village and very backward village in Rajasthan, and his parents were not very literate. So when he came, he would come, he was coming and people started calling him doctor, doctor, doctor. So, he came and he sat with us in the train and we went happily. And after that, he got a distress call from his parents one day. Right? And his parents said that, son, you can always tell us the truth. We always thought you are doing engineering and your friends were calling you doctor, doctor, doctor. What does it mean? Okay, and he had a hard time convincing them, this is just my nickname, people. They said, why would they call you doctor when you're doing engineering? How can he explain the story? That his name is Rajendra, then he became Rajendra Prasad and Dr. Rajendra Prasad, and people started calling him doctor. So the point here being, anyways, if you change profession, that is not your true identity. Anybody can change professions, and people do start flipping burgers after being an engineer. That doesn't change their identity. The country, again, you can forfeit your citizenship. You could be an Indian today, American tomorrow, Russian, the next day. Could be anything, right? And then if you travel, once the space travel open up, you may be called a Martian. That doesn't change your identity, right? Right now, Mars is not open, but it may open up in future. Religion also, people change their religions, right? They could be born Christian, and when they grow up, they may become Muslim, and by the time they retire, they might be Hindu, right? Or the other way around. It can happen. That doesn't change our identity. And ideology also keeps on changing. You may be Marxist and may become capitalist and all that stuff. So point here being, these are just plain labels. It has nothing to do with our true identity. Okay? Because no matter what is happening, you will intuitively know that I is constant in that. Nothing has changed with regards to I, right? And that is who we truly are. And what is that I? We have to take refuge in our scriptures, and we don't have to go really far than what Bhagavad Gita has to tell us about it. And Lord Krishna is explaining so nicely in these shlokas. Let's go a little deeper into these shlokas to understand that real I, who we are. Nothing to do with the designations that we carry. So what is Lord Krishna telling Arjun? Arjun, he's saying that, I'll give you a quick recap, half part of this chapter 2 itself. Arjun reiterates to Shri Krishna at the beginning of this that he's unable to cope with his current situation. As we saw, that is where the first chapter ended, where he has to kill his elders and teachers. And he refuses to take part in such a battle and requests Lord Krishna to become his teacher. In fact, he very smartly puts him in that spot. He says, Shishyasteham tvam prapannam, that I am your disciple. That means indirectly he's telling Krishna, now I'm your problem, okay, because you are my master. So you guide me in this kind of a situation. Okay, so he has actually taken on a role of a disciple, accepting Lord Krishna as a guru. Okay. So that is where this beautiful message starts to unfold now. Now Lord starts imparting this message, divine knowledge to Arjun, and he starts with, it's called Sankhya Yoga. Sankhya Yoga means the analytical. enumeration basically of this principle. So Sankhya Yoga, he starts with the immortal nature of the soul, which is eternal and imperishable. That is how this discourse begins. So when I said the whole premise of Bhagavad Gita is based on the foundation that we are eternal, immortal soul, not this body that we associate our identity to. Okay? This is the premise. That's where it starts. Think logically. If there was only one life, and if we were to cease to exist, what is the incentive for anybody in this world to even do paropkar or to do anything good other than just seeking for themselves, enjoying life to the fullest, even at the expense of other people, even if it means hurting others, even if it means committing crimes, and enjoy and move off because there's no life, your identity is going to cease. There's no incentive for you to invest in yourself. It's very logical to understand this concept and firmly ingrain it in our DNA that everything has a consequence because we are not going anywhere. The very fact that we are in this world is because of the choices we have made in the past. And because the past choices have resulted in what we are experiencing today, the current choices are going to become what we are going to experience tomorrow, or kind of circumstances we will be born in tomorrow or in future. We are not going anywhere. And that is what Lord Krishna is telling, because we are eternal, immortal soul. So let's go. So this is what we are going to discuss today. Let's start with our Shravan aspect of it. 2.17, Lord Krishna, I'm going to touch upon quickly all the shlokas related to the soul. That which pervades the entire body, know it to be indestructible. No one can cause the destruction of the imperishable soul. Okay, 2.17 states that. Then 2.18, which we are discussing today, it says only the material body is perishable, embodied soul within is indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal. Therefore, fight, O descendant of Bharat. First of all, he's putting it in perspective that soul doesn't die. Then he further goes on to say, neither of them is in knowledge, one who thinks the soul can slay and the one who thinks the soul can be slain. So he's talking in terms of soul right now. Yes, body can be slayed, and there are rules governing that. Now, you may question that if that is the case, then anybody can kill anybody. We are going to touch upon that as well. Okay? Soul cannot be killed, but there are consequences in destroying the vehicle that the soul is supposed to use. Okay? That is a different concept. But God is saying technically nobody can kill the soul. Soul is not going anywhere. It will simply depart and shed this body and get migrate to another one. Then Lord goes on to say that soul is neither born nor does it ever die. Nor having it once existed does it ever cease to be. Soul is without birth, eternal, immortal, and ageless. It is not destroyed when the body is destroyed. Again, he's reiterating that concept. Okay. He's saying the laws that govern our physical body, gross body, do not apply to soul. It is ageless. So we don't need to apply any cosmetics to our soul because it is ageless. Absolutely nothing. It's not changing at all. And then he says, apart, how can one know the soul to be imperishable, eternal, unborn, immutable, kill anyone or cause anyone to kill? Basically, he's telling him that when you are talking about killing your relatives, actually, factually, nobody can kill a soul. Now you're situated at the platform of a body where your attachment is leading you to believe that they are going to get killed. But let me remind you, what is our true identity? Okay, before he goes on to the higher principles around why he should take on this battle. He's first putting it in perspective. You are not going to kill anybody. They are not going to go anywhere. They are still going to be here. Okay? And likewise, we all are going to be here. Likewise, all the people that we mourn for or think about losing, they're not going anywhere. Nobody is going anywhere. We are just going to get recycled in different bodies. Okay? That is a big principle. So let's continue. Further, now Lord Krishna is saying he's establishing the relationship between the body and the soul here, saying that soul pervades the body. What does he mean by this? He's saying it pervades the entire body. It's an important concept to understand, and it is sentient. Now let's understand about the properties or the attributes of the soul. The first one is it permeates the entire body. It gives it consciousness. It gives it life. Second one is it possesses consciousness. The body itself is made up of insentient matter. When we say somebody passed away, what passed away? The body is still lying there. What passed away? Soul passed away. And that body is insentient matter. By on its own, if you take that soul away, it is a dead matter. The same body we were so attached to and loved, we say, take it away. It's going to putrefy now. Take it away and dispose it. Now, soul passes on the quality of consciousness to the body as well by simply residing in it. It pervades the entire body and gives the consciousness to it. Munduk Upanishad explains that soul floats in all the 5 airs. We have spoken about these 5 airs, prana, apana, vyana, samana, and udana. It floats in all. Although it is very pure, but because of material contamination, it's not able to exhibit its spiritual quality. When we say material contamination, that contamination is because the interface that it has with the material world is through mind and intellect. And that is why I say antakaran, when the antakaran is pure, cleansed, that is why soul will manifest its true glory. Because it is covered like a haze or a smoke cover or a dust cover over a mirror, it is not able to exhibit its spiritual qualities. Although we are Anusat, Anuchet, Anuvanand, it's not able to because it associates itself with the body, mind, and intellect complex. And then, of course, the ego makes it think that it is something else. Now, Shvetashvatara Upanishads, it confirms the size of the soul as well. What does it say? Balagraha Shatabhagasya Shatadha Kalpitasya Cha Bhago Jiva Savitneha Sa Sanantya Kalpate. When the upper point of a hair is divided in 100 parts, and each part is further divided into 100 parts, and each such part is the measurement of the dimension of the spirit soul. I mean, it's just a figure of speech. You can't do that. Just how subtle it is. First of all, the tip of the hair, how are we going to capture that? Let's say you can capture it, and how we're going to split it in 100 parts. Which operators can do that? And even if you can able to do that, you pick up one part and divide it in another 100 part. That is how subtle the soul is. Okay. That is how tiny we are, truly, actually. Now, you may take on a body of an elephant, doesn't make you big. Actually, factually, you're still small. Okay. It permeates that entire body and gives us a sense that we are so huge or so small. But actually, soul is very, very subtle. It's a sukshma thing, fragmental part of God. Now let's look at some of the questions related to soul, just so that we understand it really well. What is the location of the soul? Now Vedas say that soul resides in our heart, the region of our heart. Hridi Hesha Atma, Savai Esha Atma Hridi. Hridi indicates the soul is seated in the region of the heart. Okay. As you can see on your right hand side, wherever your heart is, that's where the soul is. Now, that is the location of the soul as explained in our scriptures, as you can see, both in the Prashna Upanishad and the Chandogya Upanishad. The heart is on the left, but it is always right. Okay, so is consciousness and soul the same? That is the second question. The consciousness is a symptom of the soul. Okay. They are interchangeably used by people, but it is actually the symptom of the soul. Okay, let's understand that part as well. And why is consciousness not limited to heart alone? Now, another question is, okay, if it is there, the consciousness should only be heart, only heart should be pumping the blood. How come our entire body is sentient, our eyes are seeing, our liver and everything else is working, even though it is locally situated in our heart? Now, this is also answered. Vedvyas explains that just by applying sandalwood to our forehead, apply that. If any of you is Shiv Bhakt, my dad is, he applies it every day on forehead. So it cools the entire body. Similarly, the soul, although residing locally in the heart, infuses its consciousness throughout the body. So that is the analogy. There's another beautiful analogy that is given in Brahma Sutra. Vyakti Reko Gandhavat. It says that fragrance is the quality of the flower, but the garden where the flower grows also becomes fragrant. So how is it traveling? So it's so able to pass on its fragrance to the garden. And similarly, the soul is sentient, and this consciousness that it carries, it makes that dead matter also sentient by pervading the consciousness in it. That is how the soul has been described. So hope it answers the question about the soul. How exciting soul is, although we have never seen it. That is who we truly are. Right? So this is what our scriptures are telling us about the soul. So it is located in the region of our heart. If the soul goes away, the body is dead on its own. It's insentient. It's a dead matter, essentially. And the consciousness is a symptom of the soul. So these are the concepts that we need to understand. And the soul is ageless, immutable, eternal, and not subject to material flaws that we have. It is pure. However, it is not able to shine forth because of the material contamination in all the 5 years, because we are not situated in the knowledge that we are a soul, and we are identifying ourselves with this mind and body complex. And the day mind is cleared, cleansed, our soul will shine forth. It is just like, if you look at the mountain lake and it is muddled with, it has a lot of mud in it, a lot of turbulence in it, you can't see the bottom of it. But let's say there's a peaceful lake, everything is quiet and settled down. Then if you look at it, you can see the bottom. Similarly, when our mind is still or it's cleansed, you can perceive soul, because we carry so much of noise in our head, and so much of dirt that our mind carries from across the lifetimes, impressions and material defects, because of which we are not able to perceive our true identity. So the antakaran, which is man, buddhi, chit and ahankar, these 4 things, if this 4-thing complex is cleansed, is sorted out, that's it, job is done. Spirituality is all about cleaning that, nothing else. So the cleaning of mind, and the more our mind gets cleaner, the more our perception of who we truly are will become clearer and clearer and clearer. So people who are situated in I, like Ramana Maharshi and the saints, right, who have come in, they are able to understand the source, the very source of everything, as opposed to getting eluded, what you call that, hallucinated by the things that are covering our soul. But it's a very advanced stage, and step by step we can get there, as we imbibe spiritual practices, as we start working on ourselves, and as we start ridding ourselves of all the baggage that we have acquired across multiple lifetimes. And reading Bhagavad Gita is certainly a stepping stone in that direction. All right. Moving further, what is this? Now then, what is our body? Yes, anybody had a couple of people have raised hands, questions already?
Yeah, Shruti ji, Radhe Radhe.
Yeah, Radhe, Nitin, what is material air? Is it the 5 bodies that we have, like
Yes.
Mental body, emotional body? Yeah.
That's right. Material is anything which is made up of Panch Mahabhut. Panch Mahabhut is the 5 elements: the ether, the air, the water, the fire, and the earth. These 5 elements comprise of this Panch Mahabhut and the Triguni Maya. Like our mind is made up of 3 gunas: Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. They are all material. So anything that is in the mic world is called material.
So these 5 bodies, the mental body, emotional body, all these are material?
Mental body, emotional body, you're talking about which Sukshma Sharir you're talking about?
Yeah. The material air, what is it? Is it the 5 bodies that we have?
So which bodies are you
or
talking about?
The elements?
Pranas you're talking about? Let me just put it simply. Our soul is divine, everything else is material. Okay, so whatever bodies in whichever lens you are employing to it, they are all mic. They are all under
Yeah,
the
like astral body and supracausal body, all these. So these are not the ones you're talking about, right? Material air.
That's right. Everything else is material. Our soul is the only thing which is divine. Everything else is material. But we carry that baggage for as long as we are not beyond Maya. So that is a backpack.
So when we get rid of these bodies only, then we become like free soul.
So Panchakosh, Tridosh, Tritap, everything is burnt off when we are God realized. Until then, we are under the influence of Maya. We have to carry that baggage, and all of that is under Maya, under those three gunas that we spoke about. Okay. Every body that we carry, it's all material. Only our soul is spiritual or divine.
Thank you.
Yeah.
There's a question from Sri Ramya ji. Does the soul permeate the mind and intellect too?
Yes. Permeate means it gives consciousness, it energizes that. Otherwise, how will our mind operate? The energy to our entire body is given by soul, and the energy to our soul is given by our super soul. We saw that hierarchy. So God has permeated even our soul. Two birds, right? Eternal companions, always sitting. One is tasting the fruit, other is simply noting it down, being an observer. So our body is energized by our soul, and our soul is energized by the super soul, which is called Paramatma or Kshirodakshai Vishnu, as we saw it in that hierarchy. Okay. Now, next question comes is, what is our body actually? Now, let's look at it. Everything in this world is a derivative of mud, right? Through mud comes grains, fruits, that comes to our table, cows, you drink milk, and that basically becomes our body. This is what becomes our body. And in fact, there is a cycle. There is a ras, rakt, haddi, majja, asthi, medha, virya. These all components are formed by the food. Okay. And I don't know what biology talks about that, but this is what our scriptures tell us. And all the three, 1/3 of it becomes our mind, 1/3 becomes our body, and 1/3 is eliminated. So factually, we are made up of mud only. It is mud that gets converted to vegetables, fruit, grains, lentils, everything. It's a derivative of mud. Everything is a derivative of mud. What we wear, even the stones, precious, everything is a derivative of mud here. And everything that we consume, edibles, they come from mud. They transform into our body over a period of time. Our body is nothing but the derivative of mud that we have. So it's not an exaggeration to say our body is created from mud. Okay. That is essentially how our body gets made as well. And also it is said, Jaisa an vaisa man, because 1/3 of it is going to become your mind. So next time you're going to have that junk food thing, it's going to become your mind, 1/3 of it. 1/3 of it will become your body in no time. So that is how it goes. So this is the gross body part of it. Now let's look at it from another angle. This is our gross body. Soul, Atma, like Sri Ramay, the question that you answered, Atma energizes this body. Otherwise, this body is called dead. Okay? If Atma leaves, that is called death in this particular life. Now, this is what happens when soul leaves, we are dead. And then when somebody is devoid of soul, then what happens? At the time of death, when the soul departs, body can have one of the three ends. It's called krimi, vid, or bhasma. Based on the traditions that you follow, either it is burnt, like in Hinduism, immediately it will become mud. You can see that. And then, or if it is buried, insects eat it and transform it into mud. Or if it is thrown into the river, then sea creatures make it their fodder, and then eventually their waste, it again becomes mud, seabed. If it is a Parsi, then they will throw it on the roof. The birds and vultures will eat it, and finally again it will become mud. So no matter which tradition you follow, because it has come from mud, it has to go back to mud. And it is insentient by itself. Soul makes it sentient. Right? Let's look at it through another angle now. Even in Bible, it says, for dust thou art, and unto dust thou shalt return. Even Bible says the same. Okay. So mud undergoes this amazing cycle. I said their bodies, they keep on coming from dust and going back to the dust. Okay, so we are nothing but a recycled atoms of mud. Okay. That's how it is. So it gets transformed, as you can see, into fruits, vegetables, and that becomes our body, and again back to mud. This cycle repeats. That is the reality of our lives. But who we truly are, that doesn't change. We simply change clothes. We simply change bodies. Okay. This is a key concept to understand. It should at least alleviate the fear of death, at least to some extent. Lord Krishna says that even if we make a little bit of progress in understanding these concepts, it can actually rid you of the greatest of fears that you may have. Little bit of progress can. Fear of death is one of the greatest fears people have. But look at it, nobody's dying. Our loved and dear ones are not going anywhere. They're just going to be around. It's just that those roles might change lifetime after lifetime, but we are not going anywhere. And so is the case with them. We are perfectly safe. And we have everything to gain in this life so that we can get a step closer to God and complete this journey, hopefully one day. But everything to gain, if you really think about it. And all the worries, tensions, stresses that we take, actually, it helps it put it in perspective, because nothing is permanent. We have everything to gain and we are not going anywhere. That is the reality of life. Okay. What are we going to do now? Now, eternal nature of soul has been established in this verse. So these are 6 types of transformations that happen in the gross body. Let's look at it from another angle now. What are these 6 transformations that take place? It starts with the womb, the birth, then vardhate, growth, then viparnimate, procreation happens, apakshite, vinashyati, and then this cycle keeps on repeating. Okay. So Bhagavad Gita says one who takes birth has to die, from a gross body standpoint, and one who dies has to take birth. It's a very cyclical process. It continues happening. Everybody has to experience that. And we have experienced it multiple times. We keep on forgetting it, and that is also mercy of God. But this cycle keeps on repeating. With that, what do we have next? Okay, Swamiji. Let's look at one of his lectures on this topic. I'm going to share that. It's a beautiful lecture. Any questions in the meantime?
Lakshmi ji has asked a question in the chat.
Sure.
She's asking if causal and subtle body are also eternal.
No, they are not eternal. We will get rid of that when we are beyond Maya. Because those bodies, causal bodies, are basically which is cause for our rebirth. When we are done deal, then those bodies are no longer there. We get an upgrade. It's like you get an upgrade. Our phone gets upgrades, right? Our gadgets get upgrade. So when you become God realized, you get an upgrade. And when you get an upgrade, then you have divine senses, divine mind, and all these reasons for your rebirth are gone at that point. Like Arjun got an upgrade in his eyes to see God, perceive him. Similarly, we get a permanent upgrade. And once you get an upgrade, you are a done deal. Then you don't need causal body. Causal body is the cause for our rebirth. Because of our past sanskars, God burns all of that. All the sheets are burnt and you are done deal at that point. Then you come to, you simply get an upgrade and you're God realized at that point. Any other questions?
No more questions that I'm aware of, but we can do announcements whenever you.
Sure. You can make the announcements and then maybe we can do that. I can take this lecture. It's a 10-minute one. Okay, let me share that and then we can do the announcements. I'm going to share my screen and let me know if you're able to see it. Are you able to see it?
Yes.
Okay, let's look at this video covering what we discussed.
So he says, Arjun, the soul is imperishable, but the body is perishable. The body is made from mud, and one day it will turn back into mud. The Bible says, from dust unto dust. You were created from dust and you will go back into dust. Now you may say, how come we were created from mud? We people do not eat mud. We eat roti and chawal and dokla and idli and samosa. We are not eating mud. No. But all these things that you are eating are transformations of mud. You see, there's a tremendous cycle in creation. By the process of photosynthesis, with the help of the sunlight and the water, mud has changed into edible substances, the carrots and the potatoes and the grain and the lentils and the grass. The cow is grazing the grass, producing milk. You are drinking the milk, eating your rotis. In other words, everything that you are consuming through your mouth, it's all transformations of mud and water. Once you eat, now the transformations take place in the body. Ayurveda says, Ras is created, then Rakt, then Mans, then Meda, then Haddi, then Majja, then Virya. This is an automatic process that goes on. You do not need to know. You know that dal which I ate, now has it become blood or has it become bone? You simply take the food and put it into the mouth. The rest takes place automatically. So your whole body is truly a transformation of mud. That is why poets and saints say that the creator Brahma is like a potter, Kumhar. He's created 8.4 million kinds of vessels of mud. And when the soul leaves, the body again becomes mud. The body has three ends: Krimi, Vid, Bhasma. Some people burn the body. Some people, according to their cultural religious traditions, they bury the body. Some people throw it into the river, let the entities of the river consume it. Or some people put it on the roof, let the vultures eat it. Parsis do that. So whatever they do, finally it will become mud. If you bury it, the insects will eat it. If you burn it within front of your eyes, it has become mud. If you throw it in the river, the fish, etc. eat it, they make it excreta, it goes into mud. So this body is not permanent. The word for body in Hindi, Sanskrit is sharir. And the meaning of sharir is shiryate iti shariram, that which is constantly deteriorating. The body undergoes 6 transformations. Asti, jayate, vardhate, viparinamate, apakshiyate, vanashyate. It comes into existence. It grows, reproduces, it maintains, it reduces, and it finishes. So, to be fascinated by the body is not very intelligent. That is what a yogini once taught a prince. The Puranas talk about Yoga Shila. This Yoga Shila was the daughter of a very learned priest. She used to reside with her father by the side of a river. Now the prince of that land was going around for a hunt and he saw this beautiful Yoga Shila and he got attracted. So he went and proposed to her father, I want the hand of your daughter in marriage. The father was a learned one. He said, that's not possible. You don't match intellectually, spiritually. It's not possible. He said, do you know who I am? I'll exterminate both of you along with your hut. Leave no trace of it here if you refuse. Now, Yog Sheila was hearing this discussion. She called her father apart and she said, Father, don't fear. Leave this to me. I will handle it perfectly. You will not be disappointed and he will also be enlightened. So she went to the prince and said, yes, I am ready to marry you. The prince said, really? Then should we gather all the items for the marriage ceremony? No, just wait. Give me 15 days to prepare myself. The prince said, all right, it's worth waiting for 15 days. He went off. Now 15 days he was meditating, Yog Sheila, I'll be marrying her. In the meantime, Yoga Sheila, she did her yogic Shat Kriyas. She would do Kunjal Kriya and collect all the, whatever she would take out, the vomit, into one vat. And then she would do enema and she would collect that in a second vat. She would collect her urine in a third vat. So by the end, she was a bag of bones. Now the prince came, he knocked on the door of the hut. Yog Sheila came out. She was looking like a witch. The prince said, beautiful girl whom I am supposed to marry. She said, you are talking about Yoga Sheila, that is me. He said, you? But that girl was so beautiful and you look like a witch. She said, that's, the beauty has changed in 15 days, but it is still present in the house. If you want to see the beauty, come, I will show you. So she caught hold of his hand and was taking him. He said, where are you taking me? She said, to my beauty. Then why is your beauty smelling so much? He said, just take a look. She took him to the 3 vats. This is my beauty. It has transformed. It is the same body, but it has transformed into this form. This is what you were attracted to. The poor prince had the experience of his lesson of his life. He got immediately detached. So the body is continuously transforming, continuously deteriorating. That is the nature of the body. So Sri Krishna says, Arjuna, if you think that a person is the soul, that person cannot die. If you think that person is the body has to die in any case. So what is the reason for lamenting out here?
All right. All right, that was a powerful lecture, summarizing what we have been talking about. One thing I'll tell you about, that example I liked where Swamiji says, you eat something, then you don't think about whether it is becoming ras, meda, majja, which part, can. Similarly, when you do bhakti, you don't worry about, okay, what's going to happen now and this and that. Everything will happen all by itself. All the gunas that are needed for you, all the transformations that are beneficial for you, all the changes that are going to help you on this path will start happening all by itself. You simply pop in a pill of bhakti, everything else will start falling in place. That is the beauty of bhakti. Okay, so remember it next time, when you do bhakti, a lot of things are happening automatically. You don't really have to worry about it. In fact, all the noble qualities and the qualities that you need, those start manifesting in you all by itself. That is the power of bhakti. Great. Now we can make the announcements. Tomorrow we are going to continue discussion on this topic. Hope it sets the perspective, who we are and the fear of death aspect of it and how we should look at things. Like Swamiji explained, getting fascinated with body is not a very intelligent way of looking at life. And it is very, very temporary. And not that we lose fascination completely, but look at it in perspective. We go much deeper than what we see, and it is glorious, and that's what we're going to discuss in coming sessions, how glorious we are. Okay, we have just spoken about the impermanence of our body aspect of it, which might have freaked out some of us, but that is a fact of life. But then we'll talk about how glorious we are and what are the possibilities for us being fragmental parts of God. It's something we'll talk about as well. All right, let's go to the announcements. I have 4 nominations from yesterday who have expressed interest to lend their devotional sentiments to this session. So I have Ramya, I have Sandhya, and then I had Purvi, and then Lakshmi ji, if she's around, and then Payal ji. So 4 names who have given. So we'll give preference to them today and then see after that. Any questions in the meantime? So let's first make the announcements and then we will take some questions before we move to the devotional segment.
Right. I'll first start sharing the screen for announcements.
Good.
Just can see the screen.
Yes.
All right. So this is just quickly, there is this puja at the temple for Shraddh. So whoever is around and want to serve offerings to their ancestors, please consider checking this. Then we have Navratri coming up, and for that we also have special online classes which started today, where they are teaching how to recite Mahishasur Mardini Strotam as well as understand the meaning of the same. So I have posted the link for this as well. So please consider taking an advantage of this. And of course, we have the grand Navratri celebrations coming up. And interestingly, it will also be online. So people who are here can come to the temple and get benefited from amazing set of events which are lined up, including dance, awesome food, puja of all the goddesses day by day, and yeah, I mean it's going to be live fun, and also online participants can get engaged. So please check out the link for that. For me, it will be the first time celebrating the Shehra in United States. I'm super excited for that as well. So that will also be celebrated at the temple. And then we have the tours. So we have informed about this in the last class as well. Just an update that Swamiji is in US right now. Right now, a LTP program is going on in Chicago, and this will be followed by in Sunnyvale, California. So wherever you are, please try and take advantage of this. And then Swamiji will be in India, and there are these programs lined up. So all this information is posted in the chat. Please take advantage of that. And we have also shared the links for joining the community portal, as well as link to our previous session recordings. So you can check that out as well. And please fill the feedback tracker with your attendance, inputs, questions, comments. That's
yes,
it.
please do. And then I think we can plan to walk you through with that shorts stuff. Maybe tomorrow we can plan. Tomorrow or day after. I'll announce that later. Let's take if somebody has any question, or we can move on to the next segment. Any key takeaways today? I know it was a little loaded session today. But then when we talk about soul and body, these kind of things do happen. It's said that we are so attached to our body and to our identity of this physical body that when we depart our body, it takes a while for the soul to really sink in that this was not me. Right? It said the soul frequents the places it usually likes to go, the restaurants or maybe the movie theaters that it has been frequenting, for the few days. And then it gets a closure that this was not really me. Okay, that is why we have those traditions of 3 days or 13 days. But yes, people who start progressing spiritually, they start understanding it. It's a quick closure at that point. But that is what our reality is. So it should make us fearless. It should instill more fearlessness and than anything else, I would say. and also take on grief with the perspective, because one of the hardest things for us is to come to terms with the loss of a near and dear one. So hopefully this helps see things in perspective and helps us to cope with it with a better perspective, as opposed to think, oh my God, I have lost them forever, right? My relationship is permanently gone. No, this relationship is actually anyway, temporary, because this is a role that somebody plays in our life. In different lives, those roles keep on changing. It's not with the same person, it's going to repeat across lifetimes as well. So if you look at it from that standpoint, that soul has completed their journey, they have decided to move on, and it is for their best interest. And same thing will happen for us as well. So that's how we have to look at it. Keep on telling our mind and not grieve or mourn over that, because Lord Krishna is saying that the wise, they do not lament, and he likes people who exercise this wisdom. So it takes us closer to that state of equanimity, that pendulum principle again. And more closer we get to that, or at least if we strive to do that, it gains eligibility for becoming dear to Krishna. And who will not like to become dear to God? This is also one of the things. When we don't mourn over, we don't go overboard, lamenting over something, complaining over something, or just getting into that mindset of feeling negative and pessimistic about life and things like that. That is where spirituality kicks in. So any additional incentive for us to see things in perspective and work on ourselves, because we want to become dear to God and progress quickly on this path. And if it disturbs us so much, it's an even bigger reason for us to invest on ourselves, because who likes to feel miserable? Who would like to repeat with the same mind where anything can break us apart or puts us down in life? Even more incentive for us to get out of this matrix or build those special powers in our mind, so that we can face this mic world with assurance and with confidence, and with a perspective that is empowering and not weakening for us. All right, any questions, or we can move on to our next segment?
Pragiji has asked can you retell the difference between causal and subtle body?
All right, so subtle body, let me try to simplify this thing. Subtle body is that basically all the impressions that we have, or let's say tendencies, propensities that we have. Subtle body is like our senses, they reside in a subtle form in our mind. So let's say you have indulged in a particular sense, that becomes part of your subtle body. So that subtle body goes along with our soul to next lifetime. Same thing happens with the causal body as well. Causal body, it says it has all our past sanskars, and that causal body is the reason for our next rebirth as well. So both of these bodies, they travel with us until we become God realized. That's when this backpack, it's like a student carrying a bag. That bag is taken away when you become God realized. Then soul does not have to carry that baggage. So these are the two bodies that we carry. Once our sthul sharir or gross body is shed here, we have to carry that. And that is why it is said that when you repeat in next life, let's say you had a very angry temperament, you had a very negative mindset in life, you would cry over everything, you will find problems with everybody around, you play a victim card in your mind that the whole world is is out to get me out or being bad to me. There is no escape from it. You will repeat with the same mind. Why? Because you are carrying your chip, basically subtle body and causal bodies along with you. And let's say you have learned forgiving, you have learned how to stay positive, you have learned how to let go, you have learned how to be humble. All these things you will repeat with that in your next lifetime. So that is the beauty of or the mercy of God. Krishna, he says, I'm going to preserve it for you, because if he doesn't preserve, and if you have to start from zero, you can imagine how bad it will be for us. So it gives us an additional reason to continue working on ourselves, because our homework is this much. And if we reduce it in this life to this much, we have done ourselves a favor. However, if we have made it from this to this, then we have not done ourselves a favor. So People would say, why do I need to, follow spiritual principles and this and that? There is a good reason. You're just making it worse for yourself in coming lives if you don't do that. So ignorance is not a bliss. And if you started enjoying freedom from your mind, those incremental freedom, it happens when the more you become fearless, the more you become positive, the more you work on your anger. It's a permanent, perpetual asset across lifetime. Because you are carrying a subtle body and causal body with you. That is how it goes. And once you become God realized, God says, then I will burn all the sheets, Panchkosh, Tridosh, Tritap, everything, then you are no longer there. You've gotten an upgrade, right? From a Motorola phone, you become an iPhone, and then after that, you can never become Motorola again. You can just continue in that state forever and ever. You're not obliged to come back. And Manoranjan ji can know that this is called liberation also, but Premanand is even beyond that. Then you are a done deal at that point. So it's like an atta becoming a puri, and then puri can never become atta again.
There is one more question that has come up in the chat from Kiranji. They're asking about material air.
All the 5 years?
Right, material air.
Yeah,
Can you
touch upon that? Is also material part only. Those airs in Ayurveda, we spoke about that topic in detail. Maybe we can revisit that, those 5 airs and what are their functions in our body, right? And pranayam is about balancing those airs, right? So we can talk about that topic again. But the point here is that those airs are again in material sheets only. They're not spiritual stuff, right? And maintaining the balance of those airs and everything is basically maintenance of this vehicle, right? Our car has different aspects to it. It has an engine, and it has to be lubricated, and then the air conditioner requires something. Similarly, our body is a pretty complex machinery, and you can look at it from different angles. You have 5 airs, then you have kapha, vata, pitta. So all those have to be maintained for us, this vehicle to operate effectively and for us to stay healthy. And if you don't stay healthy, then our soul has no means to, it's only vehicle it has basically to take itself from point A to point B. Using this vehicle body, we can progress spiritually. If our body is troubling us, then we will do seva and bhakti of our body. But if you have to do bhakti and seva of God, we have to keep this body healthy. Because even if we have a toothache or a small ache somewhere, our entire attention goes to that part of our body. God is the last thing that will come in our mind. That is why I said it's important to take care of our health as well.
There's one last question in the chat, which is from Pragiji. During Mahapralay, subtle body also vanishes, but causal body remains. So then what happens to our past expressions? Please explain.
Right. So subtle body also vanishes, and the causal body is the only thing which goes with Mahodar of Mahavishnu. But the past things are still retained, right? That causal body retains our sanskars and everything. So we don't get reset. We are still born with our tendencies. Causal body has all of our tendencies. The chit is still there. Chit doesn't go anywhere. Chit thota sati sada sehi mama kanha. Like when gopis, they are telling Krishna, they are complaining to Krishna that you stole our chit. And you stole such a precious thing which was always accompanying us across lifetimes. Okay, so that means even when gopis went to Mahodar of Mahavishnu, their chit was still there. So chit is something that accompanies us always because of the causal body. And Krishna, when he steals it, that's when the job is done. That's when that chit becomes upgraded at that point. And only when it is upgraded will he steal it. So chit remains always. Your tendencies, sanskars are not going anywhere even after Mahapralaya. You will still get repeated in this world with the same tendencies. This mind, until we have worked on it, nothing is changing. We repeat with the same mind, same chit, same tendencies, same sanskars.
Okay, there are hands raised. I don't know if it's for bhajan or let's see.
Sure. Maybe we can take real quick and then we move to the devotional segment because we have about 5 to 6 minutes we'd like to spend there as well.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe, I wanted to sing bhajan for 2 lines. Is it okay? You can start that section.
Okay, Swati, you can put it in the tracker as well. Let's get started with that. And do we have any questions? Before we start with that part, I can see a few hands. iPhone and Pallavi ji.
So there is anyone's hand raised for question, can you put it in the chat? I don't know if all of them are for bhajan or not. Looks like probably everyone is for devotional.
Okay, all right. So yes, let's get started. So thank you, everybody. You are welcome to stay back for our devotional chanting segment. Tomorrow we'll continue on this fascinating topic again. So now let's devour the nectar of some sweet chantings now. So over to you, Swati ji. Let's get started.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
आयो जी मैंने राम रतन धन पायो जी मैंने राम रतन धन पायो वस्तु अमूलिक दी मेरे सदगुरु वस्तु अमूलिक दी मेरे सदगुरु कृपा कर अपनायो पायो जी मैंने राम रतन धन पायो जी मैंने राम रतन धन पायो. Thank you, Radhe Radhe.
Thank you, Swati ji. Short and sweet, very nice and very devotional.
Beautiful,
Wonderful.
Swati.
All right, we have Miss Pallavi ji. It's always a pleasure to hear you.
Radhe Radhe Pallavi ji.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe. I'm trying to put my camera on. Somehow it's not going on. Anyways.
Let me try to do that for you. Okay, I've asked you to start your video. See if that helps. No, you go ahead.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. Radhe Radhe. So I want to offer my prayers to Lord Krishna.
Sure.
मेरा आपकी कृपा से सब काम हो रहा है मेरा आपकी कृपा से सब काम हो रहा है करते हो तुम कन्हैया मेरा नाम हो रहा है करते हो तुम कन्हैया मेरा नाम हो रहा है मेरा आपकी कृपा से सब काम हो रहा है मेरा आपकी कृपा से सब काम हो रहा है पतवार के बिना ही मेरी नाव चल रही है पतवार के बिना ही मेरी नाव चल रही है हैरान है जमाना मंजिल भी मिल रही है करता नहीं मैं कुछ भी करती नहीं मैं कुछ भी सब काम हो रहा है करते हो तुम कन्हैया मेरा नाम हो रहा है मेरा आपकी कृपा से सब काम हो रहा सब काम हो रहा Thank you.
Wow, Pallavi ji, thank you so much.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much.
We need to hear from you more often, so please start preparing more. Okay, this is one of my favorite bhajans.
Yeah, it's my favorite, and I always in the morning I remind myself as an affirmation that everything God is doing, and that's how I think I start my day.
I get to live it every day, so this is my favorite bhajan. So
thank you.
I live it every day, to be honest. Beautiful, very nice. I think Shri Ramya had said she wanted to sing as well, and then we have Padmaji and Sandhya, you wanted to sing as well. So let's
Yeah,
hear it.
otherwise it's okay. I mean, I can go tomorrow as well. That's okay. So, Shri Ramya ji,
Maybe we can spend another 5 minutes on that. Yes, Shri Ramya.
Radhe Radhe, I wanted to sing Garuda Gamana Tava. Garuda Gamana Tava Charana Kamalamiva Manasila Satumam Nityam. Garuda Gamana Tava Charana Kamalamiva Manasila Satumam Nityam. Manasila Satumam Nityam. Mama Pama Pa Kurudeva. Mama Pama Pa Kurudeva. Mama Pama Pa Kurudeva. Mama Pa Kurudeva. जलजनयन विपिनमुतिहरण मुख विपुत विनुत पद पद्मा विभुध विनुत पद पद्मा मम तापम पाकुरुदेवा मम पापम पाकुरुदेव मम तापम पाकुरुदेवा मम पापम पाकुरुदेवा भुजगशयन भव मदन जनक मम जनन मरण भयहारी भुजगशयन भव मदन जनक मम जनन मरण भयहारी जनन मरण भयहारी मम तापम पाकुरुदेवा मम पापम पाकुरुदेव मम तापम पाकुरुदेवा मम पापम पाकुरुदेवा. Thank you.
Thank you,
wow,
Ji. Very, very nice.
sounded like a tongue twister. She was doing it so well. Amazing.
She heard it last year and she loves it. Very nice, Shri Ramya. Wonderful. Great way to start your day as well. Loved it. Thank you so much for reciting it for us. Wonderful. All right, we have Padma ji and then Sandhya ji, and let's cover two more and then we will call off today's session. Let's have two more recitations.
Yeah, Padma ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, I actually raised earlier to put some comments. If you still, I'll say the comments, and if you still have time. I thought other people were going to sing, but I'll say the comments. If you still have time, I can sing something. What was I going to say? Something. Nitin just said the very end part, right? The love, the devotion for God, right? If we live in the past in our mind, if we live in the past in our mind where, okay, what we did in previous life and where we are today, we are not enlightened, we are not God realized. But if your mind constantly goes to that thought and you take it as like being very, very hard, out of that fear, bhakti and love for God becomes very, very difficult. But if you translate that to say, okay, whatever lives that I have lived and whatever my karma is, that is the past, but this is a new beginning. And here is his grace that he has given this human form, and every day or every situation, and every situation he will provide it as a challenge. That's God's ways to, like, so that our self-effort shows up in those situations, in those moments, so that internally we make that connection with God. And when we convince our intellect that yes, any situation, anything which comes our way is his way, and this is Krishna who is present in everybody, which means including the situations. And if you constantly train your mind, when the situation comes, when the person comes, or whatever comes your way, and you say, this is Krishna playing tricks with me, and you say, you know what, Krishna, you can play as many tricks as you want, but I'm convinced that I will not leave your lotus feet, and I know that you're playing tricks with me. And you become, you make that relationship like where you have the liberty to acknowledge that he's playing all these leelas with you, with situations and people, or whatever the hardships that come with. Then you are prepared out of love for God to go through those baby steps internally, where we can develop that love and bhakti for God, where we are constantly telling our mind that it's Krishna who's playing this leela. Then it comes naturally. And once it comes naturally from within, no situation, no person, no translation, nothing will take it away once it comes from internally, like when it comes from within. That's what I wanted to say.
No, that's a great attitude to have. Yes, let's like bring it on, Krishna. I'll take it on as your test. And that's the right attitude to take on anything. Beautiful. All right, Sandhya, you want to recite? Then we can wrap up a session with a bhajan. It's always a good way to do that.
All right, I will.
All right, let's do that. Our last recitation for the day. And then we will maintain silence after that. Go ahead.
So I today came across this bhajan and I realized that this is by Surdas, and just wanted to mention this line that, you know, we are all just had this thought today that we are super blessed that we have two eyes with which we can do seva as well as our works. So we should remember this. And this is a beautiful bhajan written by Surdas ji. I will just try to sing it and you all can sing along with me. This is the lyrics are written here. Okay. सबसे ऊंची प्रेम सगाई, सबसे ऊंची प्रेम सगाई, दुर्योधन को मेवा त्याग्यो, साग विदुर घर खाई, सबसे ऊंची प्रेम सगाई, झूठे फल सबरी के खाई, बहुविधि स्वाद बताई, सबसे ऊंची प्रेम सगाई, प्रेम के बस अर्जुन रथ हाक्यो, भूल गए ठकुराई, सबसे ऊंची प्रेम सगाई, ऐसी प्रीत बढ़ी वृंदावन, गोपिन नाच नचाई, सबसे ऊंची प्रेम सगाई, सूर क्रूर इस लायक नाही, कहाँ लग करे हूँ बढ़ाई, सबसे ऊंची प्रेम सगाई, सबसे ऊंची प्रेम सगाई, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. Thank you. Radhe Radhe.
Beautiful, Sandhya. Very nice. Surdas Ji's. That is a very beautiful composition you came across. It's the first time I'm hearing that.
Actually, I had heard it in Rishikesh, in Haridwar, like Ganga Aarti, they sing it there, but I had no idea at that point of time that this was being composed by Surdas ji, and it's amazing.
It's amazing. It's very beautiful. In fact, it reminds me, Surdas, he was blind, right? He had never seen anything. And when Krishna gave him darshan, he asked him that I am so happy with your devotion, ask for a boon. Right? And he had given him the divine vision also to see him. And you know what Surdas asked? Take my eyes away. He said, after seeing you, I don't want to see, because he had perfected his devotion without the eyes. And he said, after seeing you, I don't want to see anything. So just take away my eyes, because I don't want to have that any other imprint in my heart other than yours after seeing you. That was the level of his devotion. Think, the guy is asking, who's been blind all along, God is giving him a blank check. And he said, okay, take my eyes away, back. That was his level of devotion. Beautiful. Maybe we should bring in the saints of India, anecdotes from time to time. They are very, very inspiring stories. We can bring it in our
Extremely inspiring. I completely agree. Yeah, we could do that. That will be
We
great.
could do that maybe in some segments along with Bhagavad Gita. That will be very inspiring. Samji is saying I'll do it. I'll do the presentations for that. So thank you, Samji, for that. Okay, we'll figure it out. So thank you everybody for a very engaging session. Tomorrow we'll continue with our discussion of soul. We will bring in some more facets of soul, how glorious we are, and other aspects. So I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. And thank you again. Have a wonderful day, great rest of your evening. And thank you, Sandhya ji, Pramod ji, Jyoti, Shyam ji, Bhavani ji, Pickle ji, and everybody, Rahul, for turning your cameras on. Encourage others to do the same. And thank you again, everyone.
Thank you, everybody, for a wonderful session. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.